This video looks at financial methods of motivation. We are down here now. We've gone through all of this stuff. Use of financial methods of motivation. So, what are financial methods of motivation? Well, it's fairly obvious. Using monetary rewards as a method of influencing employee behaviour. Okay, and there's a key term which sounds a bit weird, but it is remuneration, spelt like that with the M and the N there. Remuneration are the methods that businesses uses to pay their workforce. So financial methods of motivation are all about looking at how a business can use money to motivate its workers, or more accurately, Hertzberg would describe this as creating movement in workers. Remember, Hertzberg said that, quite controversially, that pay is a hygiene factor. If it's not correct and workers don't believe they're being paid well, it will cause dissatisfaction. But just because they're being paid well, it doesn't necessarily cause job satisfaction. So it's worth just bearing that in mind when we talk through these methods. So the first method that you need to know about is called piece rate. Piece rate is a method of remuneration based on paying workers for each unit of output they produce. So, for example, if it is a jewellery factory, a necklace factory, something like that, each worker is paid for every necklace that they produce. So what are the advantages of this? Well, it incentivises workers to maximise their output, which will lead to an increase in labour productivity. And it should also be fairly easy to administer, because you just count the number of units of output that each worker has made. Excuse me. And you pay them based on what they've done. However, there are significant disadvantages to a system of payment by piece rate. There can be an impact on quality, because workers are incentivised to just rush and do as much as possible. And workers might focus on their own needs and not the company's. So, for example, in the run up to Christmas, when they need money, they'll work extra hard, but does that actually reflect when the customers of the business want the products? Saving for their summer holidays, maybe there's a big increase in output in June, but it's a seasonal good that's not wanted until October. That would be a disadvantage to the company. It creates movement and not motivation. In other words, just paying workers for each unit of output they produce doesn't make them want to make them, enjoy the work anymore. It just simply incentivises them to rush and hurry. And it can create resistance to change, because, if you're trying to change and improve production methods and it's going to slow workers down because they've got to learn new skills, that's not going to be particularly helpful. Often used, piece rate often used on things like farms, where they have to pick a crop, for example, like strawberries. Maybe each worker is paid per kilogram of strawberries they collect. That would be a use of piece rate. So commission is the second type of remuneration that you need to know about, and commission is often done by remunerating workers by paying them a share of any sales that they make. So, they might get 10% cut, 20% cut of any sales. So, why is that good? Well, it's going to incentivise workers to try and make sales, which is obviously the bread and butter of a business. Workers are directly rewarded for the number of sales that are made. If you think back to another one of our methods of measuring the effectiveness of the workforce, our employee costs, if we're paying by commission, are going to rise in proportion to revenue. So, if the business doesn't make much money through sales and you're paying people on commission, it's not going to have a huge wage bill. If the business makes more money and revenues go up, then wages go up as well. So that's quite helpful for a company. However, commission has been controversial. When it's not been particularly well done, it has led to high sales targets, leading to kind of a hard sell, people trying to harass you to buy something that you don't want. And in its worst cases, if you look up PPI insurance, or you see the adverts on television for reclaiming PPI insurance, this was actually caused by bank staff, so PPI, payment protection insurance, taken out by people who got a mortgage off a bank. The idea of payment protection insurance was if you lost your job, you would still be able to pay your mortgage through insurance, but actually the cover was pretty terrible that was offered by these companies, and the sales staff knew that, but they were paid by commission, and they were incentivized to try and sell customers these useless products. And the banks, this was kind of pre-financial crisis, banks behaving badly type thing, selling customers things that they didn't need, which has really damaged the bank's reputations. There's a lack of job security. If you need to make sales to, meet your target, pay your mortgage that month, get your children fed, that's going to be extremely difficult. In terms of feeling secure, and obviously that's one of the layers on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Workers aren't going to be motivated if they don't feel secure, and it could be difficult to pay all staff by commission. So, it's all very well saying our sales staff are going to be paid by commission, but can we pay admin staff in the same way? Can we pay a receptionist who's answering the telephone in the same way? And if we can't, and the sales team are making huge bonuses and all the rest of it, what kind of feeling is that going to create in the rest of the business where it's more difficult to pay commission? So the next form of remuneration that you need to know about is a salary scheme. A salary scheme is a method of remuneration that's based on time worked. Okay, there are two main forms of payment here. Wages are quoted hourly and paid weekly. So if you're a student and you've got a part-time job, often you will be paid, £5 an hour or something like that. They're quoted hourly, often paid weekly, and are used for paying shop floor staff in retail, people on the production line. And if someone tells you they're paid so much an hour, that is a wage. Salaries, on the other hand, tend to be quoted annually and are paid monthly. They're often used for paying managerial staff or those in the service sector. So someone says they're on, £16,000 a year, that is a salary. It's not that. And the salary, the contract that is signed will state that someone works, 30 hours a week, 38 hours a week, whatever it is, to get their salary. So what are the advantages of being paid by a wage or a salary? Well, it creates job security, because if I work an hour, I'm going to get that £5 an hour. If I turn up at work and fulfil my contract, I know I'm going to get that, £16,000 a year that I've been promised. So it's quite easy to administer. It avoids kind of subjective judgments about performance or output that you might need to make if you're using a commission-based or piece rate or performance-related pay scheme. You just pay people, and it makes things a lot easier. And of course, these are flexible, though. You can, for example, pay someone a basic salary of, say, £15,000 a year, and pay them by commission on top, so they can top up their salary. You can use that to create some job security, but then incentivise behaviour by adding something on top of the salary. However, some workers, teachers are paid by a salary. They have certain contracted hours, but more and more these days teachers work way beyond those contracted hours, and some teachers may work a lot more hours than others, and that can lead to feelings of resentment potentially for people who are on the same amount of money, but we feel maybe they're not working as hard or whatever. So that can cause conflict. And, this job security is great, but it doesn't necessarily incentivise me to work harder, to increase my output, and therefore may not be that popular with firms. So performance-related pay is the final method that you need to know about, and it's a method of linking remuneration, so I spelled that wrongly there, to completing pre-agreed objectives. So what are the advantages of doing this? Well, employee targets are related to corporate objectives. Just go back to the definition here. So performance-related pay, what would happen is an employee would attend an appraisal meeting with their line manager. Clear targets would be set, and if the employee meets those targets, those clear targets, then they would be able to get some sort of extra reward, maybe on top of their salary, or bonus payment or something like that, if they complete their objectives successfully. So why is performance-related pay good? So it allows targets to be set that are directly related to corporate objectives, which should be clear, agreed and motivational for staff. They've got a really clear objective to work towards, and they're going to get performance-related pay, which would often be paid on top of a salary. It should be motivational. It links revenues or other important outcomes to pay. So more revenue or better customer service or whatever the outcome is that's been agreed can be linked to pay. And it should improve industrial relations. If you've got really clear targets to work towards, you've got less incentive to strike. You don't want to be off work if you're working towards a target that you're kind of incentivized to achieve. However, some targets may be subjective and therefore difficult to quantify and review. So if your target is to increase customer satisfaction, for example, how's that going to be measured? If you've got a target of increasing the quality of goods produced on the production line, how is that going to be measured? And that needs to be thought about very clearly, because workers might have different perceptions of those outcomes to managers. And it could, a disadvantage might be create conflict between workers with different objectives. Might start, teachers might have targets based on the performance of certain exam classes, but maybe people will say, well, that class is much better than my class. It's going to be much easier for them to achieve their target, and it can create conflict. So they are the financial methods of motivation that you need to be aware of.